So we have from the period 1750 to 1900, we see a second and distinct phase of European colonial conquest. You want to put here down next to capital A that this is more aggressive in the later part of the 19th century. This is more aggressive in the later part of the 19th century. And it's actually going to be that part of the 19th century that this really is going to be better known as New Imperialism. And you'll see, like I said earlier, that there are some differences from this second phase versus the first phase that went from roughly 1450 to 1750. One, the focus is not going to be on the New World. Now we're shifting our intentions to Asia and also Africa. We also have some brand new players coming in with Germany, Italy, Belgium, United States, and also Japan. But the competition between the European powers is going to powers drove outright conquest in some circumstances. You want to put down here next to number 4 that it was also affected by the Industrial Revolution because it helped create the economic reasons and need. The establishment of this second wave of European empires is based upon military force, or at least the threat of using it. And again, there are definitely some parallels here with the Age of Discovery conquest in the New World, where the original military advantage lay in the organization, drill, and command structure. Again, those are things that the Europeans had an advantage over, like the Aztecs and the Incans, and it's still going to be an advantage that they have over the groups of people that they're going after in Asia and Africa. Over the 19th century, the Europeans developed an enormous firepower advantage, repeating rifles and machine guns. And again, like I said the last time we were doing notes, even though we do have some people that do kind of have this level of technology, it's not going to be the latest and greatest. It's not going to be the exact same thing that the Europeans have. And we will, as an outcome, have numerous wars of conquests that, of course, the Westerners almost always won. I mean, there's a handful of episodes where it's a struggle bus for the Westerners, but by and large, they end up getting out victoriously. The other thing here, and you want to put this down next to that list of 3 underneath capital B, you want to put down here, please, that most of the areas the Western powers went after were either politically fragmented or were an empire in decline. Most of the areas the Western powers went after were either politically fragmented or an empire in decline. At no point are these guys going after any empire that kind of has its stuff together. I mean, they're really going after, in a lot of cases, the weaklings, because they're going to do the divide and conquer things that they did in the New World, and they're going to find a lot of success there. Now, becoming a colony is going to happen in a variety of ways. Because, again, in a lot of cases, these are places that already have some type of a relationship with Europeans. The Europeans are just simply coming in and they're trading or they're changing the terms and conditions of that relationship. For example, India and Indonesia are going to grow out of interactions with European trading firms. These are interactions that would have been developed during that period of colonization, like, for example, with India, with the British East India Company. And the British East India Company is just going to, again, just ratchet down on the influence and the control that they already have. You also have most of Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. This is going to be a more deliberate conquest, that they know that there's things there that they want, or there's something that is important about that territory that makes them want to go and take it. Now, there are some exceptions. Ethiopia and Siam, which is modern day Thailand, are going to avoid colonization very skillfully. Do you want to put down here with number nine? I want to kind of get into why these areas, these two places, are able to avoid colonization. Do you want to put here next to number nine that Ethiopia had a unity that wasn't common for most of Africa? And Siam was needed as a buffer state between two European countries' colonial holdings. So Ethiopia is a fairly united African country, and its unity is going to come from it being one of the oldest Christian kingdoms. I think the only Christian kingdom that is older than Ethiopia is going to be Armenia, but don't completely and totally quote me on that. But their difference as being a Christian kingdom versus an Islamic kingdom or a still kind of tribal kingdom is going to set them apart from the rest of the African nations. And that difference really creates this degree of unity that you don't see anyplace else, where the Europeans are able to kind of easily divide and conquer because a lot of these other African kingdoms, or what's left of these African kingdoms, are highly divided because of political and religious issues. And also, let's face it, if we're still talking about in the 1700s, they're being destroyed by the African slave trade. With Siam, or modern day Thailand, they're wedged in between the French holdings in Vietnam, which is to the east of Siam, and then the English holdings in India to the west of Siam. So what happens is that the English and French, they just agree that they're going to allow these guys to remain independent because all the English and French are going to do is attempt to bash each other over the head so they can get influence within Siam. So they just sort of kind of have almost like a gentlemanly agreement that, hey, you know what, we're not going to mess with this too much. It is not an advantage to either one of us to continue, to hurting each other while we can just, agree to allow this country to nominally exist. Now, there's going to be a lot of European influence in Siam, but they will technically never be conquered.